This episode brought to you by TAUMMHOMS, which is a natural sleep and sound healing portal helping people globally to get to sleep faster and stay asleep longer through TAUMMHOMS.com. That's www.TAUMMHOMS.com.
It's My Right Stuff with your host, Grammy Award-winning record producer and inventor, Toby Wright. My Right Stuff is brought to you by TAUMMHOMS, a natural sleep and sound healing portal available globally at www.taummmhoms.com. That's www.TAUMMHOMS.com. I'm your announcer, Grinnin' Barrett. Here's Toby.
Hey, I'm Lord Toby Wright, and this is My Right Stuff News. Hey, and welcome to the My Right Stuff News. Let's get right into the music news. Well, Aurora releases the highly anticipated album, The Gods We Can Touch. It's an elegant and celestial but provocative album about shame, desire, and morality, all seen through the narrative prism of Greek mythology. That comes out today. Well, Kiss has announced a handful of new U.S. shows as part of the band's ongoing End of the Road tour. The 4 rescheduled concerts will take place in May after they were postponed last year. All previously purchased tickets and VIP packages will be honored for the new dates. As previously reported, Kiss will also headline this year's Welcome to Rockville Festival on Thursday, May 19th in Daytona Beach, Florida. Guns N' Roses, Foo Fighters, and Korn will close out the rest of that 4-day event. That should be a good one. Check that one out. Well, Shinedown will release the first single from the band's upcoming 7th studio album on next Wednesday, January 26th. Although Shinedown has not yet announced a title for the LP or the single, some fans are speculating, based on various teasers that have been made available, that the album will be called For the People, By the People, and that the single is titled Siren. We'll see about that as it comes to fruition, so stay tuned. Jeff Scott Soto appears to have reactivated his project with David Ellefson 3 months after the singer said their collaboration was on hold while the former Megadeth bassist was working through some personal issues. Last March, Soto and Ellefson announced that they had been collaborating on some new material under the moniker Ellefson-Soto. The Ellefson-Soto version of the Riot classic Swords and Tequila was simultaneously released across all digital streaming outlets via Ellefson's Combat Records. Well, Billy Talent released their album Crisis of Faith. The 10-track LP was produced entirely by the band's guitarist and main songwriter, Juno-nominated producer Ian Dessau, in the band's Toronto studio, and was mixed by the legendary Chris Lord-Alge. Well, the Grammys are headed to Sin City. On Tuesday, the Recording Academy announced that the award show, originally scheduled for late January in Los Angeles, will take place at Las Vegas MGM Grand Garden Arena on Sunday, April 3rd. We're looking very much forward to that one. Well, Steve Vai and Ibanez have revealed the Hydra. This one-of-a-kind instrument is the realized vision of a collaboration that's been 5 years in the making. It's a beast of an instrument. It's 1 body, 2 headstalks, 3 necks, and it's a creature that encompasses, among other things, 7 and 12-string guitars, a 4-string 3/4 scale length bass, 13 sympathetic harp strings, half fretless necks, single coil humbucking piezo MIDI and sustainer pickups, floating and hardtail tremolo bridges, phase splitters, and much, much more. Well, on January 28th, the day of the release of Vai's new studio album, Inviolate, 1-of-1 NFT of the Hydra reveal video will be auctioned via OpenSea. The highly coveted collectible features the video plus unlockable bonus content that will be revealed to the buyer. Good luck to them. On over to film and TV news. Well, Netflix premieres Munich, The Edge of War. A British diplomat travels to Munich in the run-up to World War II, where a former classmate of his from Oxford is also en route, but is working for the German government, so watch out. AMC premieres La Fortuna, the 6-part limited series about a mission to uncover sunken treasure. It stars Stanley Tucci and Clark Peters. 2 episodes streamed this week, followed by weekly single-episode installments. That should be pretty cool. Well, on Prime Video, As We See It makes its debut. Amazon's new dramedy focuses on a trio of 20-something roommates who are on the autism spectrum. Well, The King's Daughter is in theaters today. King Louis XIV's quest for immortality leads him to capture a mermaid's life force, but his stubborn will is challenged when his long-hidden illegitimate daughter forms a bond with the magical creature. In Moonfall, a mysterious force knocks the moon from its orbit around Earth and sends it hurling on a collision course with life as we know it. With mere weeks before impact and the world on the brink of annihilation, NASA executive and former astronaut Jo Fowler is convinced she has the key to saving us all. But only one astronaut from her past, Brian Harper, and a conspiracy theorist, Casey Houseman, believes her. These unlikely heroes will mount an impossible last-ditch mission into space, leaving behind everyone they love, only to find out that our moon is not what we think it is. And finally, Jackass is back. Woohoo! Celebrating the joy of being back together with your best friends in a perfectly executed shot to the ball bag. The original Jackass crew returned from another round of hilarious, wildly absurd, and often dangerous displays of comedy, with little help from some exciting new cast members. Johnny and the team pushed the envelope even further in Jackass Forever. Check it out now and make sure you take a date. On over to World of Sports. Well, in the Premier League, leaders Manchester City play Southampton. Second place Liverpool play Crystal Palace. And the third place Chelsea take on the Spurs from Tottenham. Well, in the NFL, the playoffs are now down to the divisional rounds this weekend. The Bengals play the Titans. The 49ers play the Packers. The Rams play the Buccaneers. And the Chiefs play the Bills. Good luck to them all. Well, on over to the world of gear and tech. Well, the Chaotica Eyeball is a studio booth alternative that fits over your microphone. It sets up in seconds and transforms any space into a recording studio. Chaotica Eyeball's worldwide patented technology offers encapsulated isolation for your microphone that creates a sound channel, allowing sound to travel through its integrated pop filter. This reduces much of the external environment and lessens the need for you to treat your recording space. Well, the Eyeball is made from a premium custom foam, and its exclusive porosity provides ideal sound absorption. The Eyeball is the ultimate isolation solution for your microphone and is gaining recognition as the #1 portable vocal booth on the market. The Eyeball creates a studio-grade acoustic experience around your microphone. You can find Chaotica Eyeball here. Well, that's all the news that's making the news this week here at My Right Stuff, January 21st, 2022. And now over to you, Lord Rage. Oh, hey, and thank you, and welcome back to My Right Stuff, which is a film, TV, sports, music, adventure, and inspirational lifestyle podcast. I'm your host, Lord Toby Rage, Wright. And today, we have a very special guest, Miss Shannon O'Shea. And if you're unaware of who this woman is, let me clue you in. She's credited with finding and breaking the band Garbage. She has also been a producer-manager to some of the top producers in the industry, and also mentored by some of the top band managers in the industry. We'll let her tell you about that, though. But before I introduce her, I want to thank you, all of our supporters who stream, download, watch, and support My Right Stuff. Keep spreading the word, my friends. We really dearly do appreciate it. And be sure to click on our show notes below to follow our link tree for a full list of all the channels we stream on, as well as all of our sites and social media platforms. If you'd like to donate to My Right Stuff, please follow our support link. Every single dollar helps support the My Right Stuff crew who make all of this possible. Well, and of course, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as the podcast channel of your choice, so you never miss a single episode. And after this episode, please head on over to myrightstuff.com, click on the store tab to pick up some snazzy merch for those bodies, just like this one right here, which would make an ideal present for your nearest and dearest, so get them now. And before we get started on today's podcast, I'd like to introduce my co-host, a man who is close to garbage, but that's because he takes out the trash once a week. Da-dum-bum. My grimy distinguished co-host, Sir Gareth Dighton. Well, hey, Gareth.
Hey, Toby.
Tell us about some new music that has graced your ears.
Oh, I've been listening to lots of different things this week. I've been listening to some brand new material from a metal band from the States called Zeal and Ardor. They got a self-titled album that's coming out later this year, and that's very, very good. I've also been listening to a electronic stroke trip-hop band from Western Supermare called Episode 8. They've got an album called In Hushed Tones, which is due for release sometime in January. I got sent an advanced copy, and it is awesome. It's very, very sweet indeed. I'm also been listening to some new material from a band from Wales called Mahoots. Before now, they've been kind of like a kind of singer-songwriter, storyteller, but they've kind of discovered they're a little bit more kind of electronic. So sort of a bit like a cross between LCD Sound System having a fight with The Fall, and their new stuff is absolutely on point.
Oh, sweet. Well, that sounds fabulous, dude. And it sounds like a full earful.
Oh, totally
right
mixed.
Well, Gareth, totally what?
A total mixed bag as usual, Toby.
Oh, that's good, Gareth, because I know that you like to have different tastes.
I do.
Just like we do on our plate, right?
Totally. Yeah, totally, man.
Well, Gareth, I'd like to introduce you to our remarkable and very fun guest, Shannon O'Shea, band manager and producer manager. She's also involved in a movie called Galactic History, which you can find on galactichistory.net, which she says is just in time for the UFO disclosure. Nice. Ooh, we're going to find out what that means. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please give a nice warm welcome to Shannon O'Shea. Hey there, Shannon. How are you today? Nice to see you.
Hey, Toby. I'm good, thank you. You too.
Excellent. So, Shannon, I'd like to introduce you to my distinguished co-host, Sir Gareth Dighton.
Hello, Gareth.
Hello, Shannon. It's an honor and a privilege to meet you, actually. And as I've already said to Toby, I'm very excited about today's guest, as you were responsible for breaking one of my all-time favorite bands, and which was Garbage. So let's start at the beginning, like we like to do at My Right Stuff. You started SOS Management in the late 80s in London, but what did you do before you did that?
I grew up in Southern California, and my first job was a talent agent, which I lucked into.
Yeah.
I was doing a little modeling when I was young, and I wandered into the studio, and the owner was crying. And I said, "What's the matter?" She said, "Oh, I got to go in the hospital tomorrow, and my office manager just quit, and I need somebody to answer the phones." And I said, "I'll do it." So I was in high school still, 17. And it was a SAG agency, so they had all the files there. So I just immediately started reading all the union rules. And I was just supposed to be answering phones, but the calls started coming in. And so I started booking. And so by the time she came back, I'd expanded the roster, and it was cooking.
Oh, nice.
So I had a natural affinity for that kind of thing. So I got to keep the job.
Nice.
Or she hired me, and that's how I started. Then I moved to LA. And while I was at the agency, I was teaching. She taught me how to teach camera movement and makeup and image consulting, which is, stylizing. Branding, they would call it now. So I started working with bands because photographers were finding they didn't know how to move in front of the camera, or they were tense.
Yeah.
So I'd come in
Right.
cunningly disguised as the makeup artist and start doing their makeup, but I'd be talking to them about their outfits and how to move in front of camera and just get them relaxed, and they wouldn't know that they were being directed, so it made them more comfortable.
That's an excellent approach. And I read that you were mentored by some of the greats of artist management. What was it like working besides like Peter Grant and Ed Bicknell and Paul Guinness? And how did you get into that?
I got elected onto the managers forum in the UK, which is now kind of a big deal. But back in the day, the first one was at a convention called In the City in Manchester.
Yeah.
And it was the first time a bunch of managers that actually got together to talk. So it was initially like just a get together, and we decided, why don't we do a steering committee? And so we had all the major managers involved, and I don't know why they, I mean, I was kind of known already in the industry for being an artist advocate and, being feisty about certain laws. And one of the things we were going after was a thing called PPL. Which, if you didn't know it,
Which is what?
It's a royalty from radio play and performance. But if you don't know it's there and to sign up, the label takes all the money. So the artist's supposed to get 50%, and in that time, it allegedly constituted 60% of their profit.
Right.
So we decided, as one person, we're not going to. That was more of an education thing, but we wanted to change contracts in general because they're still draconian, but. They were, I don't even know if I can say they were worse in those days, but they were bad. So we got together as a group, and I was the independent, cutting edge person on the committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's how I ended up getting a lot of amazing experience and advice. And a couple of them took me under their wing, like Paul McGuinness and Ed and Peter.
Nice. Any nice little stories you want to share about that stuff?
We found that manager's biggest fear was making a mistake.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that we were all lone wolves, so we had to learn how to play together. I mean, I never had a problem with it, but a lot of the guys did. There was about 15 on the committee. Gail Colson, who managed Chrissy Hyde. Oh, God. Anyways, there's a lot of really cool people on there. So I got to sit next to Peter Brandt at one of the, they're called hypothetical panels, and Tony Smith, who was the guy that ran In the City, thought of them. And what they were was you put, 3 to 6 people on stage, and you throw a situation at them. And he would be in my ear going, rah, 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 like with every situation. And
cool.
One of them was, can we get the band in to talk to them? Because the labels always want to get the band in to get direct access. And Peter goes, eventually, which, he says never introduce the band to the label.
Right.
Which he's right.
Absolutely.
So from then, you went on.
They don't always have the best intentions.
No, that's very true, sadly. You then went on to form SOS. Why did you want to go out on your own?
I've always been kind of entrepreneurial. So I wanted to do things different.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of rules, both within a company and the industry. And I was doing a lot of things that were kind of unique, and producer management wasn't really a thing then. Like a couple of people were doing it. Yeah. And I stumbled into that because the company I was at was booking sessions, specializing in American producers that were going to the UK and Europe. So we developed a database that would have, you want the size of a room, the outboard gear, everything. You just push the buttons, which I developed that, first of its kind. And I think Ellis Sorkin was doing it in the States, but I didn't know about it at the time. Yeah. And it would give you a list, and that's how I got to work with more producers. And then they would need help with their contracts or promotion in the UK. So I just naturally got into producer management. and I approached it as I did anything else, is like, you want a long career, you have to be diverse.
Right. Absolutely. And you mentioned artist rights before. Why is that so important to you? And do you see it as protecting your clients or like sticking it to the man?
No, I don't want to
Or
stick
both.
it to anybody. I think, there's a way to be win-win. But unfortunately, when you're in a corporate situation, sometimes you're forced to do certain things that are in a certain box, and that's not always good for the artist.
Right.
So I see it as more protecting the artist, but I've got a lot of hassle for that over the years, especially in LA. Like they'd say, "Oh,
I bet.
she's going to protect the art." They tell me it's difficult. But I learned from Peter Grant, that's what you do. I had no idea that this was the attitude. When I got to LA, I was really surprised. I like your shirt.
Well, that's because, there's a lot of snowflakes out here, aren't there?
Well, it's very, people did, it's just kind of not, management was a completely different thing. I ended up calling myself a facilitator for a long time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I didn't see what I did as technical, management as it's done in the States. It's kind of backstabbing.
Okay.
And people are very competitive when it doesn't need to be so.
Right. All right.
You spoke earlier about having quite a diverse range of clients. Is that something you always kind of set out to actually do? Because
I like multifaceted and cutting. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, because actually sort of some of the people who you've worked with over the years, it reads like a who's who of actually my own record collection.
Oh, I like your shirt.
Thank you very much. I did actually wear it especially for tonight.
Oh, it's nice. I think what I noticed is one of the first things I kind of studied was patterns in music. It always has to cycle, or at least it used to. We've been having this Disney freaking tone for decades now, but there's always a cycle of styles, and so in order to ride that wave, you got to catch the wave when you're good on it. But if you don't switch at that point, you're stuck in it. And then I was noticing that, like with Jimmy Miller, who produced the Rolling Stones from 1968 to 1972, so Let It Bleed, Exile on Main Street, all the great albums. And when I met him, he couldn't get arrested. I mean, he'd been naughty too, but musically, he hadn't really. People had always brought him work, and he hadn't really thought about it, which you don't, when you're doing your thing. So I brought him over to England and got him in with Primal Scream, and just started pitching him to Stone Roses and that kind of thing that had that groove that he specialized in, which is kind of laid back but hip swagger.
I'm a very big Primal Scream fan, I must admit.
Yeah, they've been really active again lately. I love it.
They have, yeah, they're extremely active. Yeah.
So he did Moving On Up with them, and they were in the studio and they needed a percussion sound. They didn't have it, so he got a glass and comb and just played. He was drumming was his first instrument. Yeah. So he just played that, and it just kind of livened the whole track up. And that's the kind of stuff he did without. He didn't understand why people paid him money. He was very insecure.
He would have done that shit for fun.
He was different. It was all natural to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
He also represented Sean Bevan. What can you tell us about working with him?
Oh, he's adorable. He's very smart.
I love his work.
Yeah, he's brilliant. He's very, he's like a master. His sound. He can hear, he has a way of separating like gigantic sounds to where you can hear every nuance, no matter what size the speaker. I don't know how he does it. He's very, he says he's a perfectionist, which he kind of is. But at the same time, it has texture. And he was raised, of course, with Trent Reznor and personalities like that. Yeah. So he's very good with bringing out the best in people who are, maybe not comfortable with themselves, or just, that's probably not the right word, but, and I don't want to say difficult, challenging to another person because he can resonate with them in a way that brings out the best in them, the best performance.
Right. Yeah. That's what I try to do in my production career as well, because, it's all about getting the performance out of the musician, for that recording that you're doing.
Yeah,
right?
you've worked with
So
some intense people too.
Yeah.
I have, and it's been nothing, nothing short of intense.
Yeah.
To work with those people. And, then I got a reputation in the industry as, I could work with those people and I could deliver a record.
Right.
At the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the most important thing to the labels, is delivering that record.
Yeah.
Totally.
Right. They don't care about anything else. They don't care about the guy in the studio or how long he sleeps or that you had to go to his house and sit there forever.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care. All they want to know about is their record, and is it good?
Yeah.
And can they sell it?
Yeah,
right?
psychology, I'd say at least 50% of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and this is
Easily 50%.
This is what's lost by not having the studio system like it was, because you could be an assistant, a tape op in England, assistant engineer here, and learn in studio etiquette and just what it actually is. You can't learn that in school.
Yeah.
No, you can't learn it in your bedroom either.
No. That's just self-medication.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's one way of putting it. You worked with Butch Vig.
I mean, you can learn a little bit. You can learn so much. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no. Fine out. Actually, let's carry on.
I was just saying you can learn a little bit in your studio. I mean, you can get confident with the gear and stuff, but but if it doesn't have feel, it doesn't resonate with people, and it's going to be even if you have a hit, it's going to be once.
Totally.
Right.
Totally. Because it's about that kind of interaction between people and actually kind of getting the best out of people in that moment in time and that space.
Yeah, energy underlies absolutely everything, as we know. Everything is frequency anyways. And you need to have that to deliver something that has feel. And humans are emotional beings. And that's what they respond to.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Right.
There were bands that, were recording on 8-track and demos that were getting more response from the public in the 90s than something on Pro Tools that somebody picked apart for weeks.
Yeah, totally.
Because
absolutely.
Yeah, totally. That makes complete sense.
Mm-hmm. It's all vibe.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you hear that little intake in the mic, as Sean would say. And if you're in your room as well, you're kind of internalized. There's no one there to bounce anything off of and to bring that out. You can see it and bring it out. So I think producers are extremely important.
Agreed.
Oh yeah, totally. I think there's a great deal of value in that as a trade as well, isn't there? There's actually the kind of things you actually can't learn. You have to experience that in real time and within a certain environment in order to develop those skills. Yeah,
and just working with people who work with Sean and learn a ton of stuff while they're working with him. Now, can they do it by themselves? Mm-hmm. It's hard to see yourself.
Yeah,
it's just the way the mind works.
Oh,
the mind doesn't see itself.
No, of course it isn't.
I mean, my mentors growing up were like Ron Nevison and Ted Templeman, and guys like this and Jeff Workman, and dudes that just were in the trenches constantly, and to jump in there with them and learn everything that they do, and sometimes what not to do, is a very, very important skill to learn from somebody that's been around for a long time.
Yeah,
totally.
Because they have that skill set and that experience, and they've been making records for longer than mostly we've been alive, right? So, I have 35 years experience making records. So, somebody who comes along and has 2 years or 5 years experience can't hold a candle to that, and wasn't around when all of that was going on, and so they have a lot to learn as far as I'm concerned, whether it's about music or whether it's just about people in general, right? Yeah. And how to work with artists in the studio, and that's a whole other, we could do a whole podcast on that one for hours.
That's a whole new series of podcasts.
Beats is not making beats is not production. It's making beats. It's a whole different thing. It's more of being a musician to me, but that seems to be seen as a producer sometimes. beat maker as a producer,
Right.
you know. So.
Well, it's you know why that is, right?
Dr. Dre, maybe?
Because in the hip hop world, you cannot copyright a drum beat, period, or a drum loop, or any of that stuff can't be copywritten. And so they make him a producer so that he can gain royalties. That's the only reason.
Well, I think some people think
Makes
they
sense,
are.
right?
Yeah, that makes total sense.
That makes a great
That's
deal of
why
sense.
it started like
Yeah.
that. You know, that's what Dre told me anyway.
Right. Well, he would know. He would know everything.
Pretty much, yeah. One of the best, that's for
Yeah.
sure. And you worked with like Butch Vig. Is that where you got forged a relationship that led to Garbage onto international success, or
Yeah.
did Garbage come first, or
When I was in England, I was kind of, because I was American, a lot of labels would call me and ask how to track down American producers a lot. And
okay,
somebody called me about him, and I just seen an interview, and I wasn't like in doing grunge at the time.
Yeah.
But I went, oh yeah, I got it, and I noticed it was his contact was the studio, and by then there were producer managers. Oh, that's weird. So I read the article. I'm like, oh, he said his favorite music was pop, and he loved keyboards. So I started thinking, grunge and pop and keyboards, and then I was doing a lot of industrial. What if you blended that in a blender? That'd be really cool. Mm-hmm. And he had this really good, great pop sensibility, which I didn't know at the time, but he said that's what he liked. But he had that format down. So I just called them and said, hey. And I guess every manager in the world had been calling him. And I talked to him about being pigeonholed, and, you know, now would be the time because he just done Nirvana. So now would be the time to maybe see. I was reading about the pop and the keyboard. He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, why don't I see what I can rustle up? You know, no strings attached. And so he said, okay. Right. And nobody wanted to take a chance on a full album because he was known as, you know, Godfather of grunge.
Yeah.
But remixes were huge, and I was doing a lot of those. So they would commit to that, which in those days cost as much as half an album.
Yeah, totally.
So
right, exactly.
Great. And he hadn't done that yet, so it was really fun because at first he mixed the track, and I'm like, no, take an anvil and throw it out the window and sample it and make that your drum track kind of thing. Yeah. So they started to go listen to Ministry, and he was listening to industrial, so the sound started to come together. And he started working with Steve Marker, who co-owned Smart Studios with him. And they went way back. And he was a programmer and an amazing guitarist. And Duke Erickson, who was in Spooner with him, they've been in bands together. Great songwriter as well. So they got to play together again. And they were really digging it. And I'm like, oh, rewrite the song. Like, go crazy. Yeah. So those days there was DATs, and I was in England, and they were in Madison. So we were sending it back and forth. And the sound started to come together. It was really great because it had the pop, you know, basis with the, you know, that dirty sonics.
Dirty pop sound almost.
So I thought, let me go find an industrial band for I was thinking Butch and Steve or Butch to, you know, work on to be that bridge because we had the remixes under our belt. Looked all over the world and couldn't find a band that had, you know, like actual songs because the whole thing with industrial was more sounds.
Lots of sounds and noise.
Yeah, except for 9 Inch Nails. But they already had a producer, Sean Bevan, and they were sorted. So I was talking to him one night, and I'm looking for an industrial band, but I can't find anything. He's like, well, why don't we just do it ourselves? You know, he was messing with me, actually. I'm like, yeah, let's do it ourselves. So I wouldn't let it go, and I started driving him nuts. And a few months later, he called me, and again, he said they thought it was funny to tease me. He's like, I wrote the first line, I can't use what I can't abuse. I'm like, oh,
nice.
It's really good.
Ooh.
So eventually I ended up getting an A&R guy on an airplane just to go see them, which we didn't sign to, but that gave him some encouragement.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I'll write a check right now. Because they'd sent me these faxes explaining what they were going to be. Again, just kind of taking the piss. You know, we're going to be a postmodern industrial outfit and only write happy songs kind of thing. Anyway. So I read that to the A&R guy, and he was like, I'll give you money. So that got him going, and they wrote a few. They called demos, but they were the basis of the album. And
That's great.
so when I needed to get money with no singer and, basically playing the remixes at first in order to get to do those demos. So that was interesting. But yeah, that's pretty much how it formed, was me driving him insane probably, and them teasing me back.
That's pretty
That's
awesome.
very awesome indeed. You actually still in touch with them?
It's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you actually still work with them?
No.
No.
When, as Lance Freed used to say, who is Alan Freed's son, who ran our publishing company, Rondor, at the time, success has failure has 1,000. Failure is an orphan, and success has 1,000 grandfathers. Mm-hmm. So it got really kind of feisty when they started to get success.
Okay. Yeah.
And I just wanted everybody to work together and have fun, know.
Yeah. Everybody got a little bit precocious.
Everybody got a little bit
feisty.
Mine. Get.
Okay.
Kind of.
I gotcha. Well, he also worked with a host of other producers. You care to mention any of their funny stories, or?
I could. Jimmy Miller's got it. Was the funniest guy I worked with because he was just such a juvenile delinquent. He was the oldest guy on the roster. He was just such a challenge. But like, I should have known when he said, when we first met, he's like, okay, you're going to hear some stories about me. I used to be a naughty boy.
Right. That's not usually a good sign.
He was a naughty
that's
boy.
not usually a good sign.
That meant I don't do that meant I don't do heroin anymore.
Right.
Okay, well that's a good
sign. That's quite a good opening line.
But he did. He did like to party. So I figured out his rhythm, but he still was good.
Yeah.
So I'd say to the labels, you gotta have at 11 o'clock, shut it down.
Yeah.
DM. However you want to do that. Otherwise, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
And when he was working with this one band, I got a call from the guy goes, Jimmy was in the studio. They were in the studio late last night, and Jimmy was singing backing vocals with dirty lyrics. Like what I tell you. What time was it? 1 o'clock. Okay.
Yeah,
that's your fault.
We actually told you. We told you.
Right.
We told you.
Yeah, because he had a great singing voice, but yeah.
Is there anyone you would have liked to have worked with, but kind of didn't quite get around to it?
There's a couple I thought about, but they weren't manageable.
Yeah.
Because the people I work with are kind of cutting edge and a little unusual. Yeah. And heavy metal seems to follow me around a lot. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know. Like I've managed Sean for over 20 years. He's kind of industrial metal, but he does a lot of metal too. Yeah, I keep trying to find him a country band to work with.
Good luck.
Good luck with that. Yeah.
It'd be awesome. It'd be really interesting. Because it's like I blend genres. I could hear it. The sonics would be cool. And they'd be real textured and clean. And with it would look groove maybe. Just to kind of get a curveball in there. I mean, he has worked with some acoustic artists and blues artists, but I think it'd be interesting. Cool. Him and a country artist. So I'm putting that out there.
All right. Well, we're going to put it more out into the universe.
I've always wanted to work with Toby Wright.
We'll see if we can find him.
He's
actually quite elusive. Good luck.
Yeah.
I might know a guy who knows a guy, if that's any use to you.
Should have asked me this. I should have known this question so I could look up a couple of. It's going to take me a while to bring them to the moment because they're in the 90s, but
that's all right. We can circle back.
We can circle back. Don't worry about that.
That's okay. Well, you've spoken and continue to speak at lots of different types of forums. You see yourself as a mentor to others?
I have done. I do a lot of consulting now with producers and artists.
Okay.
Because I don't. I've got one band, 8mm, that I work with, which is Sean Bevan and Juliet Bevan's band.
Right.
But I'd rather consult than do full-on management. It's better for everybody, especially with what I do. It's more, I call myself a career intuitive.
Okay.
So I'd rather, it's more about career guidance and finding things that they don't know they'd be good at. But in speaking to them and feeling them out, I can tell they would be able to add different bows to there's different strings to their bows that would give them longevity and make them intriguing. More intriguing.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, talking of 8mm, you've been on quite a journey with them, really. Music, films, film scoring, sound design. I mean, that's quite an impressive skill set. Does the representation and management of each of those require a different approach?
Well, that's how I see bands. Like, that's what Garbage was, a vehicle to show diversity.
Yeah.
Okay. So you take one thing and then where can you go with it? Mm-hmm. Sean was a multi-instrumental producer, mixer, with a voice of an angel. But people don't apply like, hey, you might be good at, something else unless you present something where they can see it, such as, 8mm.
Yeah.
All right.
Bands are usually good.
Well, yeah. A&R people don't have any kind of imagination whatsoever. Like they always want the, oh, you just did that record and that was successful. I got another one just like it for you.
Yeah, it's always been kind
That's
of
when
like
I
that.
say, no, thank you.
It's been the new ones as well have been brought up on follower. Look at how many followers they have. They don't have the same kind of. They don't really need an ear, although it seems to start to be coming back. But labels are still in that fabricated artist mode.
Yeah,
and there may be a reason for that.
Right.
Well, there is a reason for that, but we don't need to go into it. It's deep and multi-level.
We could skip that for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. Yeah.
So I like to work direct with the artists, and Sean loves to work with independent artists. Mm-hmm. So I often end up just, we'll facilitate that deal. Nobody needs to be nasty or try and poke anybody in an incorrect way or an unpleasant fashion.
Right.
And there's more freedom that way. Mm-hmm. And
Absolutely.
Sean's got enough experience to know it works. So it's a lot more creative and pleasant experience for everybody. Mm-hmm. But we still work with labels now and again and get into the same arguments.
Yeah.
Of course. You always will.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So let's step away from the music industry for a minute. And can you tell our viewers about your most recent project called Galactic History? Yeah.
This I got like clients that I worked with years ago. Together from unusual places. And I need to backtrack a little further than that. Before I got in the music business, I wanted to be a parapsychologist.
Right.
And I was working with a guy called Barry Taff, who was from the UCLA parapsychology department. And he did a lot of work with the government agencies and police departments. And he's an interesting person with a lot of footage of some really weird stuff from around that he had access to. So he told me at the time, if you're going to do that, you need to go to physics. You got to be a physics degree, have a psychology degree. I mean, it's going to take years in school. And they were going to teach me stuff I couldn't use anyways.
Yeah.
So, but I kept up the research and I've always had that interest. And he pointed me and the guys with the coolest tech is the government programs, because the Russia set up a parapsychology warfare department back in the day.
Right.
And then the U.S. responded to that, and they have the really interesting stuff, but they don't release it. So I kind of set me down I just kept it up my whole life. Mm-hmm. So I ended up working with some guys that worked at it was an offshoot of the Philadelphia experiment, which was a Tesla technology to, and people can look this up if it's of interest to them, but to get ships to disappear from radar. Mm-hmm. So basically it was working with frequency. Yeah. So, And I was also interested in multiple personality disorder because I thought that was an amplification of how the brain worked and how that works in conjunction with energy. Anyways, I'm getting too weird. But fast forward, I'm working with them in the 90s, and then I was working with this genius called Herwig Maurer, which is he's a real musician, multi-instrumentalist. He's done a lot of film work, like on Apocalypso and Passion of the Christ, and he's just another all-rounder, but is always a bit ahead of his time. Genius.
Okay.
And very into spirituality of all modalities. Like he really deeply studied all kinds of different things from Native American to, all it. Whatever all of it is, I'll just leave it at that. Anyways, Stuart, the Philadelphia Spirit Montauk Project guy, came out with a book that talked about galactic history, and he gave a lecture on it. And Herwig was there and said, I'd like to record that. And this was like 15 years ago.
Okay.
So we're in LA. He recorded him in the studio, and it's been in the can. And disclosure and all this stuff, people are talking about UFOs again. And so last year I was like, might be time to maybe finish that. So I called him up and said, what do you think? And he said, oh, yes, this. So he got together with an artist that is this incredibly underground influencer guy called James Mathers, who's had this amazing life. He lived in Dublin for quite a few years. Yeah. But he's in private collections of like Nicolas Cage and all kinds of people, but he's not famous because he's weird. And he grew up in Topanga Canyon in the 70s. So you can just imagine, what he was exposed to.
Oh, yeah.
And
quite the hippie.
Yeah, and he was, as a child, he was in some experiments that UCLA were doing with children at the time that were a little bit brutal.
Okay.
So he had this interesting, from a very early age, spiritual and just this, everything tied in very nicely, and so Herwig wanted to work with him because he's just continued his spiritual adventure along with his art around the world. Andy Warhol discovered him at 17 years old.
Wow!
Because he went from Topanga to New York and set up his first show, and that kind of took off from there. And he's just so fascinating; people love him, and he's set up these art scenes all around the world. They're cutting edge, really underground stuff. So he did the art with crayons.
Wow.
And it's genius. So he and Herwig took the recording. Herwig's doing this amazing, music, which we're going to turn into a meditative soundtrack at the end of it.
Okay.
And he's doing this incredible art that's just, it's kind of a Plato's cave allegory.
Right.
And, we invite people to see it as science fiction or however they want. But it's the story that's given to a lot of secret space programs. And whether or not it's a cover for something else or not doesn't really matter. Yeah. Because it's designed to just get you thinking in bigger ways. What if? Or it's a bedtime story. It's going to give you like Star Wars, it can be whatever you want. So
either truth or fiction.
Yeah, we don't care. And it's none of our business.
Right.
I don't think it's anybody's business what someone else perceives anyways. I think that's what we're supposed to be doing. So we're coming out with one chapter at a time. We're up to chapter 2.
Yeah.
It's on all social medias at Galactic History Movie, including YouTube. Okay. And we've got a website set up, galactichistory.net. And we're doing like some of the artwork as merchandise, and the artwork is just stunning. Yeah. So I've had like people that love metal and they love pop. They all love this music. So it's kind of a great vehicle for all of them, even though they all come from these completely different backgrounds.
Yeah.
That's fabulous.
Very fabulous. Yeah. That's awesome.
It's very interesting. Yeah. Everybody will see different things, I think.
Yeah. That's the beauty of art, isn't it?
Yeah,
so it's Herwig's debut as a film director, producer. Yeah. And he did it on a laptop. He lives in Malibu with in a mobile home. There's a studio and a teepee. I mean, these guys are like authentic as heck. So it's done on a laptop with crayons. And it's
all right. Well, I live right around the corner from Malibu. I got a nice little pot I can melt some crayons in, and we can have a seance.
Yeah.
Seance?
Oh,
You'll have to sort of invite me over for that one, Toby.
We'll figure something out. You should have them on next. One of them, 3 of them, 2 of them, maybe Hervig and James. I don't know. We'll talk about it later. But they're fascinating.
okay, you got it. That's a great sounding project. I'd love to see chapter 1. That's for sure.
Yeah,
so it's available on the internet.
Oh yeah, everywhere. Just Galactic History movie, or galactichistory.net is the website.
Cool.
And then that's got all the social media stuff from there. But yeah, it's 3 intense personalities that are incredibly talented getting together, highly unusual ones, and creating this whole story.
Nice.
This whole multimedia thing, yeah. Just in time for disclosure.
Nice.
Okay, tell us about disclosure while you're on that subject.
Well,
all right, don't roll your eyes. Just come on.
That's where do I start? I'll start here. We've all probably noticed that on the news they're saying, talking about UFOs and, the government may be releasing some information about that. And then they show this little weird blip and going, ooh, that's not.
Yeah.
I doubt if anything's coming out of the disclosure department that it's going to be actual, because I think our history, a lot has been hid from us about our real history.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
So, and there's 500 billion galaxies out there minimum. There's got to be other things running around.
Well, of course there is.
So, this is, different. Take the disclosure for what it is, but, look at other ideas and people that have been involved in different things and what they have to say. And everything's so compartmentalized, they may not have the whole picture. So, it's just, we have very good instincts ourselves. What does it mean to you? Use a discretion. Don't believe everything you hear that's being presented on the news. There's all kinds of technology where a lot of these sightings are our own government craft.
Right. And a lot of military sightings too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because who's up there flying around? Not me and you.
No, and a flat earther would say, what's up? There is no up. So, that would indicate to me we live in a holographic type of thing. So, how far out do you want to go? Yeah. But I think the flat earth people, they sense something is different than what we've been told very strongly. Mm-hmm. And I think it's good to combine notes. And
so why do you think that is?
What?
The disclosure is not full on the truth.
Well, people are triggered by the smallest things these days. That's here's an actual fact, and go look. And the people don't want to look at that. They don't want to look at a lot of other perspectives because we've been taught not to do that because that's disloyal if you do or whatever. So I think they feel maybe it has to be done slowly so people don't. Their belief systems shatter all at once and their mind can collapse. But I think people can handle it because it's going to resonate as truth. But at the same time, if we know who we are and and more about our history, we might, not be as cooperative with some weird stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's, and there's different levels and different players and they all have their own agendas.
Yeah.
Sure.
I will say that it's really intense right now though. And they've been trying to get people fighting and scared and anxious. Oh, yeah. And so people are extra jumpy. So I don't know. They got to wheel it out in a certain order. Whereas other people who have been looking at it for years are just like, bring it out already, please. Yeah. Let's go deep. Let's go now.
Yeah.
So, not everybody's on the same. But there is technology that is a holograph technology that if you see Jesus or something in the sky, it might not be real. So just, we just have to be
Okay.
expansive in our thinking as well as just use a lot of discretion. And galactic history may or may not be true. Who the hell knows? But it's interesting to consider. Right. It's an interesting mythos.
Absolutely.
And there's definitely a Plato's cave thing going on Earth. So it's all food for thought to just stimulate different parts of the mind that might not have thought of that.
That's very true.
And can you explain to my audience what Plato's cave is?
Oh, Socrates wrote a story about these people who were all in a cave. They were brought up in this cave, and all they saw were the shadows of on the wall that were being projected onto a wall. And so they thought that, well, that's all there is. That's what it is. That's life. And they never ventured out because they were told, don't venture out. It's scary out there. This is where you're safe. This is reality. Richard Bach also wrote a book called Illusions, which deals with that, where it's like there's these barnacles all sticking on the rock. And the water's rushing by, and they get bored out of their minds. And one of them goes, "I'm so bored, I'd rather die than hang onto this rock for another day." So he lets go, and he goes tumbling across other rocks, and it's crashing against everything. And he finally settles down, gets the hang of going with the flow of the water. And he's like, "Oh, it's really cool out here." And he starts having all these adventures. And he goes back to his buddies, his family, and he says, "Hey, just let go of the rock. You're going to bounce against things. But, just relax and go with the flow." And there's this whole other world out there that's reality. We know it's not just this rock. And they're like, "Oh, no, we're not going to go." So it's kind of like, just that kind of allegory, mythos.
Okay.
Nice.
I got it now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I probably didn't tell it very well because I'm not a or a philosophical major. They might go, "Oh, that was very simple," but that's the bottom line.
That's all we need.
That's right. Of course it is. Of course it is.
We're trying to explain it to my audience who aren't necessarily psych majors either. Yep. So
But I think we're all a lot smarter than we think we are, and we know what goodness is, and we know, and truth resonates in the bones.
Mm-hmm.
That's
very
right.
True. That's very true. So I suppose the question I have to ask you now is, what is next for you?
I don't know. I'm working on Galactic History, hoping to stir up some interesting something.
Okay.
I love working with frequency as in healing. I love what you're doing, Toby, with the.
It's actually called TAUMMHOMS. Well, it's a word I made up, and it was actually the title came from a neighbor in Topanga, Kenya. Nice. Strangely enough, I lived there for 5 years, and the story is that I was taking out the garbage one day, and and she came down the hill and she stopped, and I'd never met her before, and she said, "Are you Toby?" And I said, "Yes, I am." "And you are?" And she said, "My name is Catherine," in a very heavy French accent, and I said, "Oh, okay. Nice to meet you, Catherine. What can I do for you?" And she said, "You have something for me." I said, "I do?" She said, "Yes. Yeah." I said, "I didn't have any UPS packages or anything." She goes, "It's not about that. It's about the frequencies that you're playing with right now, and you need to help me." And I got chills throughout my body because nobody knew what I was doing, not even my wife at the time. And I'd gotten into a bad car accident. I had nerve damage to the entire right side of my body. And I was trying to cure myself through sound healing, which I had just found on the internet. And so I was doing lots and lots of, research about it. And, it then, I would go into my studio in Woodland Hills and, make these tonalities, I called them, and I would play them at night and during the day, and just so my body could feel this. And it came around, and now nice. The only I can feel everything now, thank goodness. And the thing about the only problem I have is my right eye, will droop, and I've been looking at the computer for too long. But
it's you and Tom
it's either
York.
Age or beauty.
That's who it is. It's you and Tom York. Well, you know Royal Rife is
right. Oh, I certainly do.
So yeah, I mean, we've had these frequency codes forever. We just got to get our hands on them again.
And well, they got taken away. They got taken away by Big Pharma. when they broke into Wright's laboratory and destroyed all the machines. There's only one in existence, and it sits in the Smithsonian. And I've tracked it down and tried to buy it.
Well,
but
underneath or on display? Underneath or on display?
It's on display.
Weird.
Yeah, they might have more underneath. Who knows?
Well, I'm hoping that people are learning a lot about, when big institutions get big, what can happen, and that a lot of people are looking at natural, holistic approaches because of a lot of different reasons. So I see very quickly people like splitting into creating new kinds of, let's call them clinics, utilizing UV light, frequency,
for one,
sound. Yeah, but and it would be great if we could get our hands on those frequencies. It would save a lot of time.
I have tons of research
because they were curing cancer, as I'm sure you know.
I do. Yes.
But it's when they became so affordable that they didn't have to go to the hospital. They could buy these machines. That's when it.
That's right.
Was like, we can't have that. At the same time, chemo came in.
That's right. They had to have something, their chemical had to outweigh the frequencies because sound, you can't charge for that. We got to charge them for this chemical over here. And chemo's killed more people than it's actually helped. And unfortunately, my mom was one of those. So
I'm sorry.
I'm a big advocate of, get your health care elsewhere.
And it's not conspiracy theory. It's just spoiler alert.
Exactly. It really is. I don't think there's any kind of conspiracy in frequency and sound at all. I've been in sound all my life, and this is what it is, right? It's real, it's natural, and it is one thing and one thing only, and that's what it is. A 1,000 hertz, 1K tone, as they say, is only that, and it can't be anything else. Period. Mm-hmm. And it can help you in so many ways. As annoying as it might sound, it can help in so many ways. It's not even funny. So.
It goes to the underlying foundation of what we're made of.
That's absolutely right. Which is vibration and frequency, period. So every cell in our body and everything that we're looking at around us is all vibratory. Mm-hmm. Even color if it seems like it's a piece of metal, it still has a vibratory status.
That's right. Rocks, everything.
Everything.
There's literally nothing that doesn't, including what you can't see.
That's right.
That's very true.
But we can see what we can't see. We've not been taught to see it.
Right.
So that's what I want to do is get help we as humans reach our full potential through, kind of getting rid of that. I'm going to call it programming that tells us that our imagination isn't a component to seeing color, tone, and archetype. That is a natural ability.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's a lot of things that are shutting that down, including, what we think or believe.
Right.
But really, it's a natural state.
And unfortunately, the programming of television and media is all about shutting you down. Well,
it's called programming for a reason and spelling for a reason.
Gee, hit that nail on the head much?
It's all true. And once people start, the great thing about what's been going on lately is that it's bringing out people's curiosity.
Right.
If they have curiosity, and it's available. There's so much great information available now that you can start piecing some interesting things together.
Right. Exactly. Well, Shannon, how can our viewers and our listeners find out more about you?
What do they want to know?
I don't know. You
Shannon O'Shea, Google it.
Okay.
Well, they can check out Galactic History.
Okay.
That'd be cool. It's kind of transcends all musical taste and appeals to artists as well as people who are just wanting a really cool bedtime story.
Awesome. And do you have a website besides the Galactic History? Do you have a ShannonO'Shea.com or?
I have an SOSmanagement.com, but there's something weird with the server that I got to figure out.
Okay, well, we'll still put it up for you. Are you still looking for clients?
I always say no, but it depends on what it is. I kind of I want to do something weird, different.
I got weird shit for you. So come and see me.
Yeah, I want to do stuff that helps people, feel better. Let's put it that way.
Okay, excellent.
And I don't quite know what it is yet, but I like to put interesting components together to make interesting things happen. And that's been my thing so far.
Nice.
That's beautiful. I like it.
I don't know.
That's very beautiful, yeah.
Keep your formula going, girl.
Please do.
Yeah,
Please do.
It's getting more and more intriguing.
Yeah, exactly.
At My Right Stuff, there's a question that we always like to ask to finish off, and that would be, do you have any hidden talents or superpowers?
Yeah, I can see what people can do that they don't know they can do.
Right. Wow.
That's my superpower.
That's big. Yeah,
that's
big.
a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, and you answered that so quickly too. That's awesome.
Did. That was like snap.
As most of our guests go, I don't really know. That's great.
Yeah,
okay.
I know.
Well, Shannon, this has been a really cool and informative episode, and I really enjoyed all the info and wisdom and stories that you shared with us here today, and it was fun and exciting, and thanks for taking the time to be part of this episode of My Right Stuff.
Thank you guys. It was really nice to meet you. Thank you for wearing the garbage shirt. That's really sweet.
You're very most welcome, Shannon. It's been a pleasure
to meet you. And
it's
the pink one, too.
It is a pink one. It's been a pleasure to meet you. It's been a pleasure to kind of actually sort of get to know you. And I'd just like to say, as we would say in Wales, no star, and I wish you all the very best.
Thank you kindly.
You're most welcome, lovely.
And I'm your host, Lord Rage Wright, and this has been another informative and very fun episode of My Right Stuff. Remember to listen loud, play hard, and keep reaching for your dreams. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Do you suffer from insomnia, depression, or anxiety? Well, our sponsor, TAUMMHOMS, may be able to help you in these areas. TAUMMHOMS, a natural sleep and sound healing portal, helping people globally get to sleep faster and stay asleep for longer, and you can find this piece of gold at www.taummhms.com. That's www.taummhoms.com. Most of all, I'd like to thank all of you beautiful people who stream, download, watch, and support My Right Stuff. And please keep spreading the word, because we really, really appreciate it. Also, we now have a My Right Stuff store where you can pick up some lovely snazzy merch for those beautiful bodies. Just go to myrightstuff.com and click on the store tab. And don't forget to tag us in any photos of the merch so we can include you in a future episode. Please also be sure to subscribe to the podcast channel of your choice, as well as our YouTube channel. Toby says it'll give you 10 years good luck. I'm not so sure. I think it's maybe more. This has been another amazing episode of My Right Stuff, and please be sure to tune in this week, next week, and every week for yet another adventurous and informative show. I'm your co-host, Sir Gareth Dighton, and thank you, my lovelies, for tuning in. No star, you beautiful people, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for watching My Right Stuff. This episode was brought to you by TAUMMHOMS, a natural sleep and sound healing portal available globally at www.taummhms.com. That's www.taummhoms.com.